This video will show you the steps required to inspect your scooter's variator. Reasons for inspection include general maintenance and performance tuning. These steps are particular to the Minarelli style 2-stroke engine. To do this, you will need the following tools: socket wrench, strap wrench, Allen wrenches, screwdriver. A rubber mallet may be needed as well. Your transmission cover may be fastened with screws or bolts depending on your setup. Before disassembly, make sure your scooter is turned off. You can seriously damage your scooter or yourself if you do not follow this first step. The following steps become much more difficult if you no longer have fingers. You will need to remove bolts from the following locations. First, remove the bolts holding on the airbox. The airbox location may be different depending on your scooter. Now remove the bolts holding on the transmission cover. This screw attaches the grounding wire to the engine case. Make sure to note where each bolt and screw go during disassembly, as they will be different sizes depending on their location. Now it's time to remove the transmission cover. If it does not come off easily, first check to make sure all fasteners were removed. Do not attempt to pry off the transmission cover, as this can damage the gasket, transmission cover, and engine case. If it still won't come off, you will need to do the following. Place the tip of the screwdriver against this tab on the transmission cover. Then, tap the handle of the screwdriver gently with the rubber mallet until the transmission cover comes loose. Now remove the transmission cover. The airbox on this engine is attached by a flexible rubber hose, so the cover can be removed without removing the airbox. Depending on your scooter, your airbox may need to be removed first. Inspect the gasket and replace it if there is any damage. Clean out any belt dust or debris you may find inside the transmission cover. Make sure the dowels are undamaged and free of corrosion. Also make sure this bearing is undamaged and spins freely. Lubricate if necessary. Now it's time to inspect the variator itself. To remove the fixed sheave, place a strap wrench around the edge of it to hold the crankshaft in place while loosening the retaining nut. You may need to use your foot for leverage. Be sure to wear boots if you do this. Remove the strap wrench. Then remove the retaining nut, washer, and one-way clutch and spacer. Wiggle the fixed sheave to loosen the star-shaped washer. Then remove the fixed sheave. Next, remove the drive belt from the collar. Remove the collar. The spacer may be in a different location, or you may not have a spacer at all depending on your setup. Pinch the sliding sheave and the backing plate together and remove them. This will keep the roller weights from spilling out and getting lost. Now is a good time to inspect the drive belt for damage or excess wear. Check your owner's manual for acceptable wear limits. Inspect the drive face of the fixed sheave for damage or excessive pitting, either of which can wear down a drive belt or affect performance. Replace if necessary. Now do the same for the sliding sheave. Next, remove the backing plate and check the plastic bushings and variator weights for damage or excessive wear. These weights were replaced when an aftermarket exhaust was installed. They are discolored from contact with the backing plate, but are free from flat spots or other damage. Now for reassembly. Place the roller weights back into the sliding sheave and replace the backing plate before sliding the unit back onto the crankshaft. Then slide the collar back onto the crankshaft. Slide the belt back onto the collar. Slide the fixed sheave onto the crankshaft. Then place the star-shaped washer onto the crankshaft, making sure the grooves line up with the crankshaft splines. Now the spacer, one-way clutch, washer, and finally the retaining nut. Make sure the grooves in the one-way clutch are aligned with the splines on the crankshaft before tightening the retaining nut. Failure to do so can damage both the one-way clutch and crankshaft. Next, place the strap wrench around the fixed sheave and use the ground and kickstand for leverage when tightening. Then, turn the fixed sheave by hand to ensure there is no play in the variator assembly. This also removes any slack in the drive belt. Now, reinstall the transmission cover, making sure the dowels and bearing are aligned. Push the airbox out of the way and the cover should be able to slide back on relatively easily. Make sure not to pinch the ground wire in between the cover and engine case. Reinstall the bolts holding on the transmission cover and finger tighten before torquing them down in a crisscross pattern. Check each bolt for tightness more than once, as they can back out easily if not properly torqued. Now insert the bolts holding on the airbox. Finally, the moment of truth. Be sure to have a well-ventilated workspace before starting your engine. It is a lot harder to troubleshoot if you are unconscious. If your transmission doesn't make any strange noises and acceleration and deceleration are smooth, then you're ready to ride.